Hey guys, welcome back to my discussion board. This is discussion board number three. Um, yeah, I guess let's get right into it. So first off, to describe a few key terms, um, obviously in the office scenario, I'd go into a little bit about what aviation terms. So range, nautical miles, speed is going to be in knots. Available seats. This is just available seats available to passengers. I'm not including pilot seats. Obviously, altitude. Um, Usually, the higher you go, the more efficient it's going to be. A little bit about that, and then payload. Payload is basically just the weight that you're able to use um, to essentially carry passengers or luggage. So not including fuel and whatnot. So a few options. Um, so the first one is a new Pilatus PC-12. PC-12s are pretty popular. Um, in the corporate aviation world, but they do start for new at $4.9 million. A new Citation XLS Plus that starts for about $13 million, just under. The 2002 TBM, a little bit more economical here, but that's at about one and a quarter $1 million right there. And then of course the 1984 Learjet 25 Delta starting at $340,000. So a lot more economical there, but a little bit older. Just as a broad comparison for all these aircraft, I again put the price there just to put them all next to each other. Age, obviously for the new aircraft, it's going to be new, and for the older ones, the TBM is going to be about 19 years old, and the 1984 is 37 years old. Most aircraft, though, are pretty old and usually pretty reliable as they do get their engines switched out. They have annual inspections. They're still usually pretty reliable, but just like an older car, even though you take care of it, they do start to wear down. Um, our cabin volume there, that's in cubic feet. So the Pilatus is about 400-ish feet. The new Citation XLS, it's definitely the biggest out of the four, at just under 600 feet or cubic feet. The TBM is at 246, the Learjet 254. Um, and just like kind of following along with the cabin volume, you can see that the seats kind of follow along with the cabin volume. So the Pilatus is about 7. The XLS is 9, and the TBM is 5, and then obviously the Learjet's 7. The really important thing here, though, to consider is the range. On average, the average trip, including the Afton expansion, I believe, is about 1,500 miles, 1,500 nautical miles. Um, so for the most part, your maximum range is going to be covered by most of these aircraft. The TBM falls just short of that, but otherwise, these all kind of cover that 15 to 1,600 nautical mile range that you may need. Max payload range. So this is assuming that you are at max weight. So just because your max range is say in the new Citation XLS is 1,906 nautical miles. If you are at max weight, it may drop down to 1,841 nautical miles. Either way, still covers that 1,500. But as you notice, the TBM 700 and the Learjet 25, they do fall under that 1,500 nautical mile range. So you might need to stop in between, which might add some time. Um, Another really important thing to consider is the max cruise speed. This doesn't account for any kind of cruise or descent or anything like that. But your max cruise speed, your fastest aircraft here is going to be even though it's the oldest, is the Learjet 25 Delta at 443 knots. Otherwise, the PC-12, the Pilatus 285 is still a very respectable cruising airspeed, and it'll still save you a lot of time. Um, and just like in airspeed, your max altitude, that's going to help with efficiency a little bit. Again, the oldest, it has the max cruising altitude at 51,000 feet. That doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be at 51,000 feet. But depending on where you're going or how long you're flying that aircraft, it is something to consider. Either way, 30,000 feet, 31,000 feet with the TBM, still definitely a respectable altitude for the kinds of operations we're looking at, and not too much to bat an eye at. Available payload. This is definitely something to consider, especially if we're considering bringing on a lot of baggage or a lot of customers on board or other employees. The most payload that you'll be able to have with max fuel, obviously you can take some fuel out to add to that payload. It's going to be in the PC-12 at 1,009 pounds, and the lowest here is going to be the TBM at 227 pounds. So really, depending on what kind of operations you want to do, whether you want to bring on a lot of customers, that is definitely something to consider. Another important one, kind of going on with max cruise speed, obviously the faster the airplane's going to go, the faster you're going to get there. So you can see that trend down here at the 1,000 nautical mile flight time, with the fastest being obviously the Learjet at 2 hours and 22 minutes, and the slowest being the Pilatus PC-12 at 3 hours 46 minutes. So that about hour 20 minutes does make a good difference overall, but still Pilatus PC-12 is still a very fast aircraft. Maintenance cost per hour, that MX does stand for maintenance. This is just considering how much the aircraft is going to cost to run from a maintenance perspective. So the Pilatus is at about $156 per hour, which is going to be the cheapest out of the three, and the most expensive is going to be the Learjet at $582 there. So there is a bit of a big gap there. So even though with a Learjet it is probably the fastest out of the four, as well as has the highest altitude, and still a very respectable available payload, it is going to be the most expensive to maintain out of the four. But either way, I wouldn't let that deter you too much, depending on what kind of money you want to pay up. Estimated hours, and this is including the Afton expansion. And going back to just as a reminder with the airline model just for the COO travel, with the Afton expansion, flying with the airlines was going to take about 876.5 hours per year. So you can already tell just by a quick glance that this is going to cut down on that significantly. With the Learjet, as I discussed, it is the fastest out of the four. So it's only going to be you're going to bring your COO travel down to about 90.2 hours. And obviously overnights are going to decrease rapidly as much. And your slowest ones can be the PC-12 here at 143.5 hours, which is still very respectable, still a huge time saver. And then estimated overall flight hours. This is for overall, not just the COO, but for all employees. On average, just before, on the Learjet's going to be the fastest at 293.3 annual hours. And the Pilatus is going to be at about 466.7 hours. And of course, these are all estimated. This isn't including climbs, descents, holds, taxi, stuff like that. So you can definitely expect some variation here. But overall, if you're at cruise, the Learjet's going to be your best bet for speed. For comfort, though, I would definitely recommend the new Citation XLS Plus. It is the biggest, and whatnot. But otherwise, the TBM and the Pilatus PC-12 are a good middle ground between the Learjet and the Citation, especially price-wise, with the new Citation being the most expensive. That is all I have for you guys. So thank you guys for listening, and I look forward to reading your replies.